A 6-week-old baby boy reportedly died in Gaza yesterday of malnutrition. He's one of 80 other children who have lost their lives as a result of this horrific situation from hunger. With us now is Khalil Sayegh, an Israeli-Palestinian conflict political analyst. Khalil, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this.
Thank you for having me.
One of the things that I have thought since the beginning of this war is that it cannot be the case that Israel cannot rid itself of its enemy, Hamas, because Hamas is willing to sacrifice its own people. I believe Israel has shown that it has certainly taken more care with the lives of Palestinian children than Hamas has. And yet at this stage, this late stage, to see this kind of suffering, to see children and babies dying of hunger, it's very hard to see. So I'd like you to you can respond to anything I said. Where are you on this?
Sure, yeah. So to start with, I think it's disputable that Israel have taken care of the civilians in Gaza. To start with, we've seen the bombardments where it was, in many cases, indiscriminate. In many cases, Israel has tolerated really a very high ratio of civilians versus Hamas's combatants since the beginning of the war. And with the starvation policy that Israel is imposing on Gaza today, we are seeing that there is lack of care for civilians' lives. European Union just about 2 weeks ago has urged Israel to let more aid, and they were even willing to put sanctions on Israel in order to let aid into Gaza. And that was the reason why Israel has allowed some aid to Gaza, because of an agreement they had with the European Union. And yet the aid that got into Gaza, it's just very little. It's less than 30 trucks in the last few days. And we are seeing this, what's called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that has become, as it's described by the UN, death trap, where people come to collect aid in very inhumane conditions. And over there, they are killed either by the American security contractors that are there, or Israeli forces. Until today, we have over 700 people who were killed by trying to get aid from those 3 sites that exist in Gaza today.
So I know some of that is reported. The Israelis have acknowledged firing shots to control the crowd, but they don't acknowledge that they were people who were targeted or people who were killed. You are one of the few voices who is on the pro-Palestinian side, who is willing to acknowledge the brutality of Hamas against its own people. What is your view for how this situation, this horrifying situation, comes to an end?
So Hamas is to blame for many things, Batya, including crimes, as you said, against Palestinians. One of the most horrific crimes that we reported about in the last couple of months was that Hamas kidnapped and tortured and killed 12 humanitarian aid workers who are Palestinians who worked for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. They literally stripped them naked and beat them to death in front of the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis. So there is a huge blame on Hamas for many things. I don't think the aid issue is to blame on Hamas, despite all the practices that they've done. I think the aid issue is to blame on the quantity that Israel is allowing into Gaza. That is the issue. If the quantity is increased, I don't think Hamas or any other obstacle can be on the road there. When it comes to the shooting, we have enough footage and evidence that show Israeli forces shooting there. As Haaretz reported too, an Israeli newspaper, that one of the soldiers have confessed clearly that he was commanded to shoot and control on the crowd, and he himself, like his conscience, didn't leave him. And he says that, I want to say it because my conscience is not letting me go with it. So I think there is enough evidence to suggest that Israel have committed crimes in this regard.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.